This is part 2 of one of the most insane Minecraft challenges ever conceived. And apparently people hate intros, so we're going to jump right into the challenge. But if you haven't seen my first Nether challenge video, then you probably want to go watch that. There have been tons of comments about what I should do next, and the one I'm picking first is fight the Wither. That being said, I have no idea how I'm going to fight the thing, because I'm barely skating by with armor made from butter and mushroom soup. After goofing around for a little while, I decided it was time to explore some new Nether fortresses. I already have a Wither skeleton skull from the previous video, so I only need 2 more. It's going to take a while, so now might be a good time for me to talk about my goals for this video. I'm fighting the Wither because a large portion of viewers said that it should have been the ultimate ending to the previous Nether challenge, and I have to agree. My next goal is to prove a point. Some people seem to think that I did the challenge in an older version of Minecraft because the newer Nether is too difficult for me to handle. This is just completely untrue, but if I don't show it in a video, then it didn't happen. So I have something special in mind. I don't want to spoil the surprise though, so that is all I will say for now. I would like to take a moment to thank everybody who left a comment suggesting where the challenge should go from here. I sincerely think all of you guys are very creative, and I hope you continue sharing your ideas with me because I'm going to implement them into a lot of my future videos. After exploring an entirely new fortress and collecting all of its loot, I made my way back to base and crafted a shield along with some proper armor. I decided it would be best to go farm out the skulls at the fortress right next to my base instead, since the very place I plan on fighting the Wither is at my base. Which I understand to most of you sounds insane, but that is what I'm going to do. After hunting these skulls for what felt like hours, I finally had a second one drop for me. I scooped it up off of the ground and went along on my search before running into a little bit of a problem. I tested my tried and true method of running away and was successful. One of our friends followed me on the way out, and wouldn't you know it, he dropped a skull that this guy right behind him picked up, which really surprised me and kind of made it look like a bobblehead. I laughed at its silliness for a little bit longer and then gave it one more tap so I could collect my skull. Now that I have all 3, it's time to go summon the Wither. And to be honest with you, I couldn't be happier because I was starting to lose my mind wandering around these fortresses. Just gonna craft a pick from the iron I have left and then head straight up the staircase in order to get to the bedrock ceiling, where I can summon this Wither because, I'm gonna be honest, I can't fight this thing with iron armor. I'm gonna have to suffocate it. I have tried fighting this thing with iron armor in an alternate world, and I never lasted more than 2 hits. If you want to prove me wrong, that's great, and I'd love to see it. Please link me the video, but I'm gonna do things the way I have always done, especially in the Old Nether. I found what I thought was a perfect spot. There wasn't any way to predict how this was going to turn out. The show must go on, as they say. The only thing I can do is summon the thing and hope for the best. I already regret this. I already regret this. I already regret this. Why did you guys make me do this? Come on, please be trapped. Come on. Yes! Oh, yes, perfect. And boy am I glad that is over, but it appears that killing the Wither has had a strange effect on our environment. Yes indeed, even our friends have had a slight change. Now I might be scared of the Wither, but the last thing I'm scared of is the Nether update. I actually really like the Nether update, so I decided to do this and show you guys that I can do it, if for no other reason, just for fun. So I've put all of my items in a chest, and I'm going out into the wilderness to find new areas and explore the Nether update while proving that I can survive it once and for all. The easiest way to find the new biomes is to go where, obviously, no terrain has been generated. So the best thing I can think to do is head back to spawn, and then from there travel the opposite direction I previously did. I take my sweet time traveling back to spawn, gathering materials along the way, knowing that when I get there, everything's going to get a whole lot easier. Obviously, some of the old tips are still going to work, like gathering soul sand and gravel. But one thing that you can do now that you couldn't do in the past is go ahead and collect mushrooms, because once you find wood, that can be converted into food. Yes, it's true that a lot of these places I have visited before, but it wouldn't be any harder for me to gather these things if I started over completely fresh. And to be 100%, in past attempts, it was actually even easier. I know that there's a lot of you that are going to be upset that I updated this world. The fact is, the last challenge was actually very difficult, and I don't think I was going to survive much longer if I kept dragging that out the way I was. I had died numerous times in order to make that last video. The whole point to the Nether update is that it makes the Nether livable. It makes it a viable place to put your base and stay in. People aren't trying to flex or act cool when they tell you that the new Nether is easy compared to the old Nether. It's just how things are. It's the whole point of the update, and it's just as simple as that. Could kinda call it lucky, I'm not sure if you would or wouldn't, but I did find a small spot that was partially warped woods and crimson forest. And there weren't a lot of mobs about, so I decided to go ahead and start here. I began chopping down wood, gathering resources, making tools, doing everything that you normally would in the overworld. It does not matter how much the environment around you changes. The goals of survival remain the same. You are going to need food, equipment, and shelter, and I already have 2 of those. After a quick lunch break, I decided it was probably time to work on that third thing. Shelter. Now, even though I have access to like tons of new blocks, I don't want to build anything super fancy because I don't want to waste a whole bunch of time working on builds right now. I have a few goals that I need to complete before we can just go back to the old base and continue the challenge as normal. The longer I hung out in this area, the more of these mobs started to spawn and give me trouble. I'm really not all that worried about gas, magma cubes, and hoglins, but piglins are a whole nother story, and they can gang up on you really fast. So I actually need to mine up some gold and make a hat or something before these guys notice that I'm not one of them. As long as you have a few zombie piglins hanging around, you do have some friends to hide behind, but they're not going to be around forever. I'm going to go mining for a little while, so I started a small mushroom farm so that I'll have food when I return to the surface. There's really not a lot to mine for down in the Nether, but the 2 things that I really need right now are gold and blackstone. Because blackstone is stone, and it counts as cobblestone when you're crafting. I managed to find gold first, which is good, but I wasn't sure if it could be mined with a wooden pick at first, and that made me nervous. It looks like we are in business though, and it's only a matter of time before I have armor again. Something else that gold is going to be useful for is piglin trading. There's a long list of useful items we can obtain from piglin trades, and that includes obsidian, which we will be using to leave the Nether once more so that we can go fight the Ender Dragon. I want your honest opinion. Which boss do you think is harder to beat? The Ender Dragon or the Wither? I started a trade with this piglin to see what I could get before going back to the mines. I am almost 100% sure that he's about to give us gravel. Whoa, wait a minute. Hey, that's actually pretty nice. We got a splash potion of fire resistance. That's probably the best loot you can get from these guys. People have insisted that they make the game harder, but I have built a strong partnership with the piglins and the zombie piglins alike. I had barely just gotten back to mining when I had already found blackstone. And this is going to change everything. I'm going to be able to make stone tools and a furnace and countless other things. It's crazy to think that we're approaching 200 days in this world and I am just now getting stone. I crafted my very first stone pick and got the advancement. Normally, I could care less about the advancements, but when doing a challenge like this, every little thing matters more. These Endermen happened to spawn nearby, and I thought I'd take advantage of the situation by attempting to get myself a few Ender Pearls. As with many things, I work smarter, not harder, and I achieved my goal by thinking my way around it, not using brute force. Mushroom soup and chicken has been doing great so far, but it's nice to know that we can actually get pork chops now. If I really wanted to take the time, I could do the same thing Luke did and wrangle up a couple of these things and start breeding them so I would have an unlimited food source. But I have much bigger fish to fry right now. It's important to collect more gold for trades and get enough ender pearls to make ice for the portal. Moving to another area soon is likely a good idea. I feel a whole lot better about this now that I have a fire resistance potion. It looks like a warped woods is nearby, so getting those ender pearls will be easy enough, so I guess I can spend more time mining for gold, which just so happens to be one of my favorite childhood pastimes. I'm sure many of you can relate. Made myself a golden chest plate for the flex, but my knees are starting to get cold. Never do this, guys. Only after rewatching this do I realize what a dumb risk it was. The poor thing is trapped now, so let's talk business. The piglin examined my offer and traded fairly. Obsidian and potions are exactly what I'm looking for. Ah, crap. It looks like the authorities have busted me trading without a license. I really wasn't ready to be done here, but my mind is being made up for me. On top of that, this guy is blasting everyone in the neighborhood, so I better just go. Not too far from there, things started to improve. I could tell that the wastes I was walking through were new and full of that fancy gold ore. Right beside this was the Soul Sand Valley. I felt compelled to wander into the newly found biome, as if something was calling to me. My fear got the best of me though, and I fled. When I got back home, there happened to be 2 hoglins roaming by my gate. Guess I'll have to tower up and bridge over to my fence, so that I'm not gored by these hellish swine. After dropping into my yard, I put a sword to my unwanted guests and turned them into tonight's dinner. Like with many things in Minecraft, you can just think your way out of a difficult situation. You don't always need to be a pro at combat. That goes for PvP as well. Remember, even though warped and crimson wood won't burn, sticks and crafting tables still do. So this stuff is still usable as fuel. I think these chickens are rebellious. I can't tell you how many times I've witnessed these things destroy their own rider. The game is probably trying its best to end my run right now, and all it's doing is helping me out with this abundance of food. Hopefully more chickens come along because I could use a good stack of arrows. Okay, so before we leave this place and go back to the old base, a wall must be built. Even though it's not necessary because I won't be visiting often, it's basically become a staple of Nether settlements. Just needed to top off the wall with something bright, and sadly we ran out of magma blocks before it was done. Just slap these on top of the wall and bam! Flatten this spot here a bit, plant a few brown mushrooms here, plant a few red mushrooms there, bone meal the nelium and nylium. This place is starting to look much better. I started a tunnel through the warped wood so that getting there and back would be easier. The spawn rate for coarse ore seems to have increased. After finally making it to the other side, I stumbled across something I really wasn't expecting to. A bastion. Without hesitation, I rushed into the dangerous structure. It's time to teach you guys the Banclam technique to dealing with bastions. I use what I call the rodent technique, which is called that because I stole the methods used from the mouse that lived in my old house. The rodent technique is simple, yet effective. You tunnel around in the walls so that the residents won't know you are there. Just stay in the walls and take your time. Eventually, you'll become familiar with the residents and their habits. Once you find a spot up high, where you won't be noticed, that's when you want to slowly creep out and see if the coast is clear. Then you can survey the area a bit better. This is the part where you look around to see where they store the crackers and cheese. After the target has been sighted, start tunneling your way to the goal. Remember, slow and steady is the way to go. One mistake, and you are trapped like a rat. Lucky for me, I'm not actually a rodent, so when spotted by the enemy, the option of slaying them is available to me. On a serious note, you can clear these places out pretty quickly by getting all of these piglins to aggro into a small area. After a good amount of swiping, the last piggy went to market, allowing me to finally rummage through these treasure chests. I quickly blocked off any way into the room, just in case, and cracked the first chest open. Already got netherite scraps. I have a feeling this is going to be a really good raid. Unless I'm mistaken, this crossbow has mending. I stupidly cut that part out, so oops. Back to tunneling in the walls, making my way down to the main cheese storage, when I broke into yet another room and started clearing it out. These guys actually have so much HP, I'm not sure how we are meant to fight them. Unless this is the intentional way. The only thing that really matters is that they are dead and I am not dead. A third chest was opened, and inside was a pile of obsidian and even more netherite scraps. And a pork chop for some reason. If hoglins didn't exist, then I would be extremely suspicious of that little detail. Much like the mouse in my old home, I have left a hole in the wall of nearly every room. Nothing was safe from my reach, and there was much to be had laying around in dry storage. Finally, I had made it to my primary target. The war pigs did everything in their power to try stopping me, but the challenge only drove me to continue my assault. I took it slow and made my way to the chest. Inside was the legendary netherite upgrade template. I had really hoped that this would be in here, but I had no clue how much netherite you could actually find in these chests. Everything I could possibly want from this place is already in my inventory, so there is no reason to stay here whatsoever. Just gonna tower directly up and find the spot where I came in. Should be littered with netherrack. And there it is right there. Just like that, we are on our way out, making off like a fat rat. By now, I have proven my point about my ability to survive the new Nether. Now I can go back to the old base when I'm ready. I broke the gold blocks we had found down into ingots and tracked down a few buyers. Obsidian isn't really something I need more of, but it would be fantastic to get some more pearls from these guys so I don't have to kill so many endermen. Wow, these are really good boots. The ghasts busted me again and started destroying everything on the ground, so I had to retaliate this time. Oh, this is where I got the crossbow that has mending. Well, anyway, it's time to head back to the old base. And there it is. Home sweet home. It feels like it's been a long time, even though it's been like maybe 10 minutes in the video. The mushrooms are really starting to spread around the base too. Okay, I think I might have some pearls laying around here somewhere. I'm not sure though. I'm gonna check this chest really quick. No! I forgot! Oh my god, that was just about it. I completely forgot that those guys will destroy you for opening any chest. You've signed your own death warrant, my friend. From now on, the only place I should open a chest is inside the storage area. Could not find any pearls at the base, so I'll need to go find more, but I might as well gather up these blaze rods before I head back that way. After that, I can go back to the warped woods biome and just wait for the endermen to spawn. Come on, coward, fight me. So many of these blaze spawners are just sitting around the world blocked off. I'm sure there will be a use for this thing again in the future. I'm almost certain that people are going to want a part 3. Potions and enchantments can really spice things up in the next one, I think. That really depends though, because I have a long list of ideas, so I will wait and see how this video does first before promising anything. Picked up some mushrooms from the garden since I am running low on food. It's a bit of a walk between here and the new base, so I'll need it. Now it's off to get the last of those pearls. I went off the beaten path a little bit and found this basalt deltas with a fortress spawned right by it. Can't afford to get distracted though. I gotta slay a ton of endermen as fast as possible and go fight this dragon. Okay, so at this point, what is the real Nether challenge? The fact is this. The real challenge is starting inside the Nether and being able to get out. You can go through each portal you make one time. The first time, you're allowed to get a dirt block and 1 tree sapling. The second time, you are allowed to go fight the dragon and bring back everything you gather from going to do this. Just don't spend several days on the surface world and forget that you belong in the Nether. I'm not going to be picky about which Nether you decide to use. I chose the version I chose because I wanted to prove that it could be done, and now I have proven that. And I can also do it even after the update. Of course it's nighttime. That's twice now. The only thing to do now was follow the eye. If I was lucky, the mobs would leave me alone as I ran along. There's no telling how far away this place is, so I might want to AFK until the sunrise. Lucky for me, the sunrise was much sooner than expected. It has been quite some time since I saw the sunrise in the Minecraft world. All of this time spent in the Nether has taken its toll on me, I admit. The idea of enjoying a regular Minecraft playthrough sounds really nice, and I might do that on stream soon if you would like to join me. When ender pearls start disappearing, that's when you know you are really close to the stronghold. We have been very lucky and not a single pearl has broken. This is a sign. I could start digging, but why do that when there is a cave going directly down right here? Once I reach the bottom of the cave, I dig deeper, hoping to find the stronghold waiting for me underneath. Just like that, we have a bingo. Now we need to find that portal room. Speaking of the end, a ton of people really want to see an end update. Now, in my mind, the end already had an update, because in the past there were no chorus fruit or end cities or anything like that. I guess what I'm actually leading up to is, if there was an end update, what would you like to see added to the dimension specifically? Everyone has a different idea about how these things should go, and I really just want to hear your different ideas. I never would have guessed that trees and forests would be added to the Nether, so I imagine that Mojang will likely surprise us all. Sadly, I forgot to get arrows, so I'm going back to the surface because there is no way I'm fighting this thing without arrows. The good news is that there is a village right here, so I can just get a fletching table and solve this problem really fast. Getting arrows would have been much more difficult if it weren't for villager trading, I admit. In the Nether, I would have had to trade a ton of gold to piglins and kill a ton of skeletons in order to gather all of the arrows required. I would have done that, but I honestly just kind of forgot. I will accept my punishment now. With the arrows secured, it was time to finally go face the final boss and take things to the next level. Too many people think that the game ends when the dragon is slain. The reality is, it's just another thing to do in a game that never actually ends. The first time I ever fought the Ender Dragon was on the Xbox 360. Shout out to anyone who has had to fight this thing with a controller. Years of contention with the Ender Dragon has made me a strong fighter when facing this particular boss. However, I realized during this challenge that the same cannot be said for the Wither. Since the first time I ever obtained the Nether Star, my go-to for killing the Wither has been trapping it or suffocating it. In my own humble opinion, the Wither is the most frightening and difficult boss in Minecraft. The Dragon comes in second, and the Warden comes in last. Regarding the Warden, I'm not saying that it is the weakest boss, because obviously it can kill you very easily. However, the goal of the Warden is to avoid it altogether, and that isn't as scary as having to face your problems head on. See you next time, old girl. The reward for killing the Ender Dragon is access to the End Cities. I won't dwell in the end very long. I'm here for the elytra and a tool or two, but then it's back to the Nether with me. Finding the first End City was all too easy, and traveling in the end is like riding a bike. Once you learn how, it's hard to forget. As usual, a few shulkers guarded the door. Relentlessly bashing their shells with a sharp axe seemed to do the job. I'm taking a bit of damage though, and I'm realizing that I don't have much food left. Maybe avoiding damage is the best way to go about this. Smacking their attacks away isn't too difficult, but when the attacks start to overwhelm you, just block yourself in for a moment. The main reason I get through these challenges is because I take my sweet time and I play like a coward when it's necessary. After a while, the number of shulkers had been reduced, and many of the remaining ones had fled to the outside. I was going to gather the loot from one or two more chests, and then move on and find an end ship. The end may seem completely desolate and unlivable, but food does actually grow out here. It's kinda dangerous to eat and might have adverse effects after prolonged use, but hey, it's food. A second end city was just a hop and a skip away. There was an end ship parked right outside, and you know exactly what comes next. Unfortunately for me, there was a pair of shulker jerks who wanted to make things more difficult than they have to be. Wasting time building a tower because you are panicking is dumb. Take a deep breath and think of a solution. Usually, something comes up. Finally, the ship's loot was mine to claim. I got a diamond pickaxe with Fortune 2 and Unbreaking 3, which is amazing compared to the wood and stone I've been using for the entire playthrough. And I got the hard-earned elytra. I took a moment to grab the dragon egg as you do, then dropped into the portal back home. Well, the portal to the portal that brings us home anyway. The first thing I'm gonna do here is make an anvil because we have needed that for a long time. Oh yeah, and I grabbed some sand on the way. Look, I killed the Wither, so I deserve my beacon. I converted my netherite scraps into bars, made myself a smithing table to go with the anvil, and duplicated my netherite upgrade template. And voila, our first netherite tool. Somehow I wasted my obsidian in the end somewhere, and I needed to trade for one last piece so I could make my beacon. Wasted no time and crafted up my beacon, and also threw together those shulkers. Just think of all the stuff we're going to be able to pull off now that we have all of this amazing gear. You know what? I told myself I wasn't going to let this turn into a series, but I feel like we're going to need a third video at least. The beacon is useless all by itself. I need blocks to power that thing, and the only blocks I can imagine being able to get in mass quantities right now is gold. Obviously, it's going to take a long time to find enough gold to make a full beacon, but we can use a partial one for now. Right when I'm about to start building, this guy shows up and has to poke a bunch of holes in the ground. Ghasts, man. You know what that means. Another wall. There's just no sense in building in the Nether unless you're going to add preventative measures. I am back in the old area, so the difficulty level here is much higher. So increased spawn rates are to be expected, I suppose. The lack of magma blocks pushed me to use glowstone on top of my wall this time, which actually looks pretty good. Now I'm going to start building a new house. I think gravel would make a good foundation. Not really following any specific pattern here, just kinda winging it. I do want to become a stronger builder, but I spend so much time doing other things in Minecraft that my skills just don't improve very quickly. Soon I will be streaming on a regular basis, and that is how I plan on getting more building practice in, so make sure to tune in for that. Dude, get out of here. I'm trying to do something. That's like 4 in a row. People tell me that they like my builds a lot, so I don't want to sound rude by opposing what's been said, but I do feel like I have plenty of room to improve, even though I'm not completely trash. Also, I think it's worth noting that I spend a lot of time playing older versions of Minecraft, and it kinda shows in my gameplay and builds sometimes. Yeah, this place looks okay. Maybe it's just in my nature as a creator, but I'm always gonna nitpick at what I'm doing. It's one of those things that's helped me get better over time. Quite often in life, you are going to be your own biggest critic, and maybe that's the way things should be. I survived in the Old Nether and the New Nether in hardcore mode for over 200 days. I want to thank my amazing channel members for supporting me. I'll see you all next time, and until then, stay golden.